There we go. Bill Landis, please stand up. Because it was your birthday. You're not, it's true, but it was your birthday last week and I missed it. So we did last month, sorry. Yeah, well, it is. It is too late. So you could find me for prompting Bill first, I guess. So we need to sing to Bill, and anybody else? Oh, that's right. She was hoping she would sneak under the wire. Margaret, oh, Mike, you gotta stand too. Margaret, she's on Zoom, so Margaret's standing as well. Stand up. Yep. So Margaret, thank you for being out there. I know you're listening. All right, we're gonna sing to these wonderful Rotarians for their birthday. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, dear Paula. Happy birthday to you. Thank you so much for being a good sport. Yes, Al.
Update. I reported about a month ago, a little over a month ago, Adam Wilson donated a kidney to someone in New Jersey on the National Registry and had complications. He continues to have complications in his home, but he is struggling with infections and such.
Yeah, thank you. Keep us in the loop on that, Al. I'm trying to track with him, but he's obviously in his situation not super responsive right now. So I'm gonna just make sure that I make everyone aware. The difference in the schedule this month is going to be that we're moving students to the last 2 weeks of the month because we missed them with the snow day last week, and we want to make sure that we catch up. So this month is going to be interesting. Today, obviously, we have Travis and Clint speaking to us. Next week, we have Al and Martha speaking to us. And I can't see it. Can I? Maybe I have it in the next. Anyway, okay. I had it planned so that I knew it was like this title of this speech was going to be up there too. So but we have a lot that we're trying to do. And Fran, I wanted to ask if we could talk board elections, because that was something we were supposed to do last week, and we have a hard deadline of the 21st in order to get some things done.
Just briefly, the board elections are coming up, and as been in our practice, we will be taking nominations from the floor as well. At this point, the number of nominations that we've received from the R85 committee are just a small number, but to clarify this, Steve, it's my understanding that the majority of the existing officers and directors have agreed to serve another term. Is that correct?
Yes, sir. I've discussed this with each one of those that you and I have talked about, and each one of them have agreed to continue serving.
One of the things that we have talked about, though, is that we have sometimes had a co-director for certain positions, and part of the idea there is that in the event that the director cannot attend a particular board meeting, the co-director could attend and potentially have a proxy to vote for that particular directorship or have it in service. So keep that in mind too. And don't forget, we still have a committee system, and we're always looking for people who are willing to take on certain tasks, specific tasks, rather than being on the board. So keep that in mind, and please talk with the existing officers and board members, and with Steve in particular, if you have a particular interest in serving in a certain area of service. Thank you.
Thank you, Frank. Thank you for your leadership, the R85, and everybody volunteering to talk about how these things are going. I've really enjoyed the emails going back and forth around those things. So thank you very much for all your effort on that. A couple of new members. I did not hear any negatives about these two that we have voted on, Brett Gregory and Sarah Flowers. So Brett, he's been with us, and that's something that the board has already voted on. Sarah is one that I want to make sure she's in the room a couple of weeks before we introduce her or induct her into the club. So working on that, and then we've got a couple more coming. So I'm pretty excited about the growth thank you all very much for all you all are doing to celebrate what the Grange Rotary Club is all about. This is a meaningful thing that we are a growing club at a time when a lot of other clubs are not. So thank you very much for all your effort. This is where I have the stuff going on. March is also got a lot. So Stan, do we want to talk about speech contest?
Yes. We're having a speech contest on March. I don't know what this means.
Yeah.
And I'll be asking.
Yeah. Thank you very much for your leadership. And we'll definitely do what you asked on that. So we got a couple of Paul Harris things that are coming up. We're actually going to say that thanks to Robin's leadership, we're going to save the Paul Harris stuff for the 21st of this month. So I'm really excited about that. Thank you. There's a lot that's really going on, even with donations to every Rotarian every year. And I've got a couple of things related to these two gentlemen that I'm going to share next week. And I'm just clearing up a couple of things, but just to kind of lay the groundwork, you know, I have been trying to work really hard to appreciate every member of the club. This is one part of that, but there's something bigger happening with them. So I wanted to make sure that we were putting that out there with everybody. And finally, can you pull me off the stage, please? Can you hear me? I thought that was going to work. But there we go. Yeah, would you mind introducing our speaker?
Absolutely. Absolutely. Can you hear me okay?
Yes, sir.
All right. Very good. Well, first off, I want to thank Matt Williams and Mr. Watkins and Blaine, who is running camera for me so I could participate today, and quickly setting up a Zoom option for me to dial in. Unfortunately, I was so looking forward to today's session and being with you all. But unfortunately, I'm a little bit under the weather and needed to be away for the day. But as it goes, the show must go on. And so I appreciate everybody kind of bending over backwards to still accommodate and to make this happen today. For those of you that I have not met or might be new in the room, I'm Clint Cahoe. I'm the president of Baptist Health Grange, our hospital here in Oldham County. Several months ago, the Kentucky Hospital Association offered hospital leaders across the state of Kentucky to come out to our local communities and talk a little bit about what the Kentucky Hospital Association is, how it supports the hospitals of the Commonwealth, and also how our hospitals support our own communities. Now, here in the upcoming months, I'll come back in if you'll allow me to, and I'll talk a little bit more specifically about what Baptist Health is doing in our community. Hopefully you've heard some of the announcements that we've made that are really exciting for us in our community, and we'll come back and talk a little bit about that specifically. But today's conversation is really about the Kentucky Hospital Association, as well as hospitals in the Commonwealth. We do have Travis Burton here with us today from the KHA. Travis has been traveling the state, from Pikeville to Paducah, so they say, with many meetings like this, with Rotary meetings, with chamber meetings, and otherwise. And so when this was offered to us here in Oldham County, I reached out to Matt a few months ago to see if we might be able to have this talk at our Rotary as well. And Matt has worked that out for us. So thank you again, Matt. But just by way of an intro for Travis, Travis Burton is the Associate Vice President of State Government Affairs for the Kentucky Hospital Association. He focuses on statewide advocacy and policy efforts on behalf of the hospitals of Kentucky. Prior to joining the team at KHA, Travis led the Kentucky Chamber of Commerce policy work on education, workforce, small business, and agriculture issues. Previously, he was the Director of Public Relations at the Kentucky Department of Agriculture and worked as a policy advisor in leadership offices in the Legislative Research Commission. Travis serves as a board member on Jobs for America's Graduates in Kentucky And he and his wife, Lindsay, who is a kindergarten teacher, have live at home with their young children. So without further ado, I'd like to introduce Travis and allow him to make some remarks. Travis?
Thanks so much. Every time I come to the podium, I usually have to deal with the microphone. Oh, but no, I'm so honored to be here today, and I just want to take a moment to first say thank you to Clint for all that he does for your community and really his work in the Kentucky Hospital Association. He's a strong voice who works closely with hospital leaders across the state to make decisions that are necessary and help us take actions that are needed to make sure that Kentucky's patients are being served and being served well. I also want to echo what Clint said and thank Matt for allowing us to be here today. It means a lot to have the chance to talk to a group of community leaders like yourself and the movers and shakers in Oldham County. We're thrilled, and we just want to make sure you know what KHA is. We're really just down the road from you, so if we can ever be of assistance, we want you to feel comfortable reaching out to us. So the Kentucky Hospital Association, what does that mean? That's essentially a group of almost all of Kentucky's hospitals that work jointly on policy, on efforts to ensure quality, and on other projects that may arise that our hospital leaders like Clint see as an issue. And one of those issues, just for an example, is the workforce issue. And recently we brought on someone in the KHA who is specifically focused on tackling the workforce crisis in healthcare and for hospitals. You know, every sector, and you all heard it, and I'm sure you felt it in your business, are dealing with a situation where they don't have workers, where they can't get people to show up to work. And it's absolutely, it's harmful to day-to-day operations. I think the difference in hospital world is when we're facing those situations, you know, it's people's lives on the line. And so that's why we're taking this workforce crisis very seriously and working with our member hospitals to find solutions. And I was just talking to the director of the Arvin Center. What an amazing facility you all have here. It sounds like they're doing great work. So one of the things we want to do, we're going to continue the conversation with the Arvin Center after today, because we're attempting to map out what is going on in Kentucky to make sure we have the workers that are needed in our healthcare system. What I spend a lot of my time doing at KHA is being a voice for hospitals, policymakers. You all, of course, have the Speaker of the House from Oldham County. We work so closely with them and appreciate his leadership on so many fronts. You all elect state senators. You send a member of Congress to Washington and our senators. And so at KHA, what my department is responsible for is making sure those people who work on policy, the people who are making decisions that's going to impact how a hospital can operate, that they have all the information they need, that they have a clear understanding of what actions they may take will have on the day-to-day operations of their local hospitals and the ability to care for their community. And so, as I say, with the General Assembly, they're actually back in Frankfurt today. So I'm thrilled to have the ability to be here in Oldham County, out of Frankfurt. I always am the first to raise my hand if I get to spend the day away from Frankfurt. But we're going to be spending the next month, our team, aggravating those policymakers to make sure we get some positive things done for the patients of Kentucky. So, in addition to KHA, one of the things we've done, and Clint mentioned this, we've been out talking to communities, just like community groups, just like you all. We've been in Pikeville and Western Kentucky and Northern Kentucky. We just want to have a dialogue about making sure you know what KHA is, but also we'd like to highlight the fact that when you think about your local hospital, or just a hospital in general, your first thought is probably, well, that's where I go if I get sick. Or that's where my relative goes when they get sick and I go visit them to take them flowers or a cup of coffee. Or so-and-so's having a baby, so they've got to go to the hospital. I'm gonna go to the hospital to see the new baby. And that is absolutely correct. And those functions are always gonna be the number one thing that hospitals do. What we wanted to talk to communities about, especially rooms that have individuals like this in it, that hospitals outside of being the place people seek care are economic engines in their communities. They're actually, we would say, critical players when we talk about economic development in the area. They're major businesses, regardless of the size of the community they serve. In a lot of counties in Kentucky, it's the hospital systems that are the number one employer. Hospitals pay above average wages, and those wages through any given community that a hospital serves in the form of housing, cars purchased, groceries, clothing, fuel, entertainment. Kentucky hospitals had nearly $13.5 billion to the state's economy and employ nearly 75,000 people. So we'll take a moment and we'll compare that to the state's two signature industries, which is Kentucky bourbon, which adds 9 billion, and the equine industry, which adds 3 billion. Their combined employment is about 63,000. So that means that hospitals are having a larger economic impact and a larger employment, that employ more people than the bourbon and horse industries combined. But we rarely think as hospitals as those powerful engines of economic growth. Now, it is fair to say that in some parts of the state, these hospitals probably do depend on people mixing bourbon and horses to have some foot traffic in their hospitals. But in Oldham County, and this is probably a very conservative estimate, but we estimate that just here in Oldham County, that this probably has about $73 million impact on Oldham County alone, and that's probably being pretty conservative. A thriving hospital is key to economic development, and there's a lot of evidence that new businesses will not go to communities that do not have easy access to a hospital. Communities that either have no hospital or have lots of hospitals find economic development very challenging. No entrepreneur or big company wants to locate their operations where their families and their employees do not access health. And that makes sense. If the CEO is bringing you their family, or they think about employees, and they have young kids who play little league. It's an arm race. They want to know if they have quick access to care. Dr. Bruce Yandel of Clemson University College of Business and Behavioral Sciences identified a cluster of critical elements for economic growth: a good transportation system, a good education system, easy access to green space and amenities, and access to healthcare. These are all those critical elements for thriving economy. If any one of those elements goes missing, that makes economic development all more difficult. The loss of a hospital is devastating to a community. Our Lady of Belmont Hospital closed in the city of Russell, in Greenock County, and the impact was very sharp and immediate. There was a loss of about 1,000 jobs, and the city of Russell lost nearly 25% of its tax base. So we have seen that areas that lose their hospitals have a very difficult time attracting new business and new opportunities for the people. Local hospitals and the Hospital Association and that brings me to why I'm here. We're eager to work with local leaders to improve local economies and health of communities. And strong economy is key to good health. The social determinants of health, such as nutritious access to nutritious food, safe housing, adequate rest, educational opportunities, and a strong social support network are all signs and are all supported by a strong economy. The wealth of a community is a good indicator of the health of a community. Wealth and health are entwined, and hospitals play a key role in the economy, and in conjunction with other employers, schools, libraries, and local leaders, we've all worked together to develop the infrastructure to meet the social determinants of the community. Like any economic engine, hospitals require fuel. And unfortunately, fuel supply for Kentucky hospitals has been squeezed as badly as everyone else's wallets have been squeezed when they go to the fuel pump. But the pandemic and the record-setting inflation that we all experienced, unlike we've experienced in several generations, is certainly having an impact and presenting challenges for these hospitals. Kentucky hospitals lost approximately $2 billion during the pandemic, and that comes from a combination of loss of revenue from the extended shutdown of elective procedures, and also from the number of COVID-19 patients whose illnesses tended to keep them in care for longer and required more resources, and the payment for which did not fully cover the cost of care. Like all businesses, inflation is battering hospitals, but unlike most other businesses, hospitals do not have the pricing power and cannot simply pass along increased costs to consumers. On any given day, approximately 80% of patients in a Kentucky hospital are being covered by Medicare and Medicaid. Neither of these programs cover the full cost of the treatment. It's not the nominal charges, but it's the actual cost of providing care. The federal government sets those rates for those programs and how much the hospital will receive. Hospitals also operate under the Federal Emergency Treatment and Labor Act, which requires hospitals to treat anyone and everyone that comes in the door, whether or not they have the ability to pay. So you can imagine how long a business would last if federal law dictated that they had to provide products or services to anyone that walked through the door, whether or not they could pay. And so, despite the lack of pricing power, hospitals still must cope with inflation. That has seen the cost of traveling nurses increase by over 450% from 2019 until up until last year. And we estimate the total cost went from $88 million in 2019 to over $1 billion by the end of last year. So that is a huge increase in cost that hospitals across the state and the nation are trying to manage. Hospitals are also major consumers of energy and food. Electricity costs have increased by at least 11.5% since last year. To run an MRI machine for 13 hours requires the same amount of energy that 850 people would use in that same time. So that's more people using energy than live in the town which I'm from, Broadhead, Kentucky. So if you expand that cost over the scores of machines, elevators, lights, environmental costs, even the televisions in a patient's room, you can imagine how quickly those costs and that money will add up. U.S. energy production has been curtailed, and we've all felt the pain at the gas pump. But the increasing cost of petroleum isn't just felt by us when we go to fill up at the gas station. It's also felt at the hospital. The cost of exam gloves. So you think about, you go to your appointment, and every time a nurse or doctor comes in, they put on new gloves. The cost of those gloves has increased 247% over the last year. Syringes and scores of other disposable items with petroleum waste that hospitals constantly have to use have also become significantly more expensive. I would encourage you to think for just a moment about a hospital with 100 patients in their beds, or I'm sorry, 100 patients in beds. They receive 3 meals a day, which means 300 meals each day. The cost of eggs, I'm sure we are all familiar with what is happening when we go to the section of the grocery store where eggs used to be, or sometimes are, but they're very costly. They increased nearly, at least, if not more, 40% in the last year. Coffee, which I deem as absolutely essential for day-to-day life, is up at least over 10%. And so again, it's just easy to see how those costs add up. And despite all of this, though, you've got such strong leadership in Flint and in your local hospital who's grappling with these costs, who are juggling these challenges, facing them head on, to still take excellent care of Oldham County citizens and the people really throughout the region. We applaud them for being able to step up and continue to serve your community. What I would like to lead with here today is, we're working in Frankfurt with our legislator, with Speaker Osborne, to tackle some of these challenges. And one of the ways we're going to do that is hopefully through House Bill 75, which was introduced by Representative Brandon Reed. What that's going to do is allow Kentucky hospitals to continue to utilize a hospital rate improvement program, extend that out into outpatient services, which will be a big help to rural hospitals, allow them to draw down federal funds that are already there. So no state money, just federal money that's sitting there waiting for states to take it. We want to make sure Kentucky takes it and use that. And what that program, I should also mention, is tied to is quality. So this is a program that allows us to draw down federal money and increase the quality of services. And at KHA, one of the other things I didn't mention that we do, because it's certainly above my pay grade and abilities, is keeping track of all of the quality metrics across the state. And since this program was started years ago, it was initially passed into state law by Representative Van Carney, and it's been continued for years. But we've seen a strong correlation of improvement in quality. So it's not just an entity asking for money, it is hospitals utilizing the program and increasing their ability to serve their communities and being able to do it even better than they were before. So I would encourage you to think of Clint and all of your hospital employees and functions when you're thinking about ways to build the local economy. Hospitals, we've talked about, are such strong economic engines wherever they're present. And I just want to reiterate and get a hold of us, Clint or Matt, but if we can ever be of assistance to you or what you're working on here in this community, please don't hesitate to reach out. And so with that, again, I want to say thanks to Matt. I do want to say thanks to my buddy Jonathan Shell for riding up from Garrett County with me. We spend a lot of time together in the car. We both travel across the state and carpool every now and then. So I'm sure he's very thankful that you all didn't ask me to introduce him. Because my words would not have been kind. But thank you just for allowing us to be here today. And if there's any questions, I'm happy to take those. Maybe out of time.
Yeah, I appreciate that. I definitely want to take some questions. I'm going to work to get Clint's video back up on the screen. Since Blaine did it, I'll let Blaine do it for you. But what questions do we have?
I did actually give everybody a $10 bill beforehand to not ask them tough questions.
It's a good fundraiser idea, isn't it?
Well, if you all think of anything, please don't hesitate to reach out, and thank you again for the opportunity to be here today.
Yeah. I wanted to reiterate that Travis was here, obviously, because Clint made some great connections. So I wanted to thank Clint, obviously, for doing so. Really appreciate you being here. And the speakers from the Rotary Club received a donation in your honor to our effort internationally to eradicate polio. That's gonna be done in your honor, so thank you very much for being a part of what we're doing. Come back anytime. Mr. Shelf, come back anytime. Kevin Jeffries, you really should be here permanently anyway. It's all right, it's all right. Hopefully you got to eat. So I'm gonna spin the wheel, and I also wanted to say that Clint is gonna come back and do a presentation around his own, the Baptist local growth. And I've got it scheduled, Clint, we'll talk about it, but I've got something scheduled in March. We might need to move it a little bit after, but I wanted to let everybody know, I know that's a big one. So I'm gonna spin the wheel, anything for the good for the order while we're talking. I was gonna put money that was fuchsia again, because I think this thing is weighted. All right, what's the number, Blaine? Read it up.
148.
148, Landis. Let's get it going. Yeah, it says Robin Lawson. I'm pretty sure it's, yeah. You got pizza. I'm gonna give you
Pizza.
Hey, thank you all very much for being here. Enlightening Tom Travis. Go serve somebody today.
Another cupcake. Nobody goes down. Nobody tell. Grab another cupcake. Huh?
I'm not big. I can't do that.
That one's out.
You can eat deer this year? I got
Yeah.
It's $77.
Too much to live.
I was like,
Yeah.
are you serious?
I did the same thing.
$77.
CJ does the same thing.
Hey, sir, how are you? Yeah.
If you get sausage or whatever.
I swear, everything good? Yeah.
And it comes back and costs. It's like,
Yeah, I mean, it's like $5 a pound. I mean, yeah. It was fun.